Hey guys, I wanted to share with you an episode I recorded with Sadie from Sadie Has No Friends, which is not true. She does have friends, but her podcast is called Sadie Has No Friends. And if you have not checked it out, please check it out. It is hilarious. She does 5 episodes a week, so she is dedicated. And she does some really funny stuff, not just murder. She does all sorts of different things. So check her out, and I hope you enjoy this episode I recorded with Sadie.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
It's the Sadie Has No Friends podcast.
Okay, so Kelly, if you're watching on the YouTube channel or social media, Kelly, I am so proud of you. You got a neon sign.
I mean, I had to one up like you. You were like, hell here. And I'm like, Jeebus soda.
It's, yeah. Oh, we're like totally different too. Like yours is like a white light. It's a picture. It's Jesus. And the neon part says, I saw that. Mine says hell here, but it's from, do you remember? I was like obsessed. I still think I might be. The movie Batman Part 2.
Which Batman
with
did it have?
Catwoman.
Oh, yes.
Oh
With
my
Michelle
God, I wanted
Pfeiffer.
to be Catwoman so bad.
She was so freaking beautiful. Yeah.
She was so great. And so in her apartment, she has one of these signs, but it says hello there. See, so
yeah, it blinked out.
It comes with like a blinker thing, but I feel like that would be too much
so
for people watching to see blink hell here to hello there. I don't know. It's ridiculous, but you were upping your game and I'm obsessed. I love it. Kelly.
Yeah. I mean, he's always watching me and being like, I'm judging you, you're dumbass.
Especially in the month of October, which I've heard from some people who are totally digging Murder Monday this month.
Yay!
Because it's really no holds barred with you, Kelly. You are just going for the jugular. And that's kind of what I said. This is what we want. We want like kind of the most eerie, messed up stories.
Yeah, there's no lack of those in the world, I'll tell you.
Sadly. So before we get started, Kelly, well, actually, no, not before we get started. Why don't you just jump right in?
Well,
jump into your story today.
I will then. Let me find it. All right. Well, you were telling me you needed to hear about Ed Gein. And
okay, can I just say,
yes,
if you're into the Monster series,
oh yeah,
did you hear they're making an Ed Gein one?
No,
that's the next one. So they did Dahmer, and then they did Monsters, the Menendez, and this next one is Ed Gein. And do you know who they picked?
Oh God, who?
Guess what actor they picked to play Ed Gein?
Oh shit, I was thinking like Steve Buscemi or somebody. No,
you're gonna lose your mind. Do you remember the lead guy on Sons of Anarchy, Charlie Hunnam?
Yeah, they're making him hot.
They're making him kind of hot.
All right,
but I don't know. With that movie magic, they'll probably make him
really
look pretty
fucking creepy.
So is that what we get to do today? Are we doing?
Yes.
It's like the Ed Gein is like the reason why there is a Leatherface. It was based on him.
Oh my God.
To me, those are, I will say, the scariest movies.
So freaking creepy. Yeah. I mean, he was the inspiration for Psycho, for Norman Bates, for Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs, and Leatherface. I mean, it's not like he was just one. He is like the pinnacle of what you think as the most horrifying serial killer. Yeah, monster. Which he wasn't even really a serial killer, which is so crazy to think
He wasn't considered a serial killer?
No, because I think he only killed 2 in the end. But what the shit he did was so fucking psychotic.
It was so morbid that they just started making movies about it.
Yeah. In fact, there were more movies that I found that I haven't seen yet. So you can tell me if you've seen these. So one is 3 on a Meat Hook.
And that's a movie about Ed Gein, like kind of,
well, based on him. So it's a 1973 film that tells the story of 4 young women whose car breaks down in a small town, and there's a local farm boy that lures them to his family home, and his dad likes to cook up his victims. So
Okay.
Wildly not what he did, but also it was kind of loosely based on him. So 3 and a meat hood.
This is why I don't travel by car anywhere. And I don't go to small towns. I'm sorry. Literally, small towns do freak me out. I have this
But you grew up in one.
strange. Yeah, but Wellington to me,
True.
I'm
I
talking
could
like
see Ed Gein
Kansas.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
go to Kansas, some of those dusty ass towns where there's just a freaky looking church with giant trees, and then there's a
And the
dude on his
cornfields.
front porch and he's rocking and staring at you. Like
With his
that's
meat
what
hook
Kansas
hand.
is.
Yes.
Every time I have
yes.
to go visit family, and it terrifies me, but I
It's
push through it.
true.
It's
Children of the
freaky.
Corn. Okay, so here's another movie. Another 1970s one. It's 1974. Deranged, which is a slasher comedy, which sounds good. I like slasher comedies. And it closely resembles Gein's life. So that sounds like a good one.
Okay.
This one I have to watch. I've not watched it. This was released in 1993. This actually stars Steve Buscemi, which is probably what made me think of it. It's called Ed and His Dead Mother. And the Ed character in that, he tries to resurrect his mother from the dead, but it doesn't go as he planned.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
So wait, was that supposed to be like a funny Ed Gein, goofy, like, it went
Dark
all
comedy.
wrong?
Kind of like Fargo. Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, the other one I found was called Child of God, which just that wording alone scares the shit out of me. But Child of God, I figured out why it was also the name of a cult. So
children. Wasn't it Children of God?
Yes,
or something?
I think you're right. Children of God. But this one was a movie released in 2014, and it was an adaptation of a book by the same name and stars James Franco, which I could kind of see he's a little weird on the weird side.
Weird. I could see him being weird. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying there are a lot of
more
different
movies.
options.
Yeah.
To see. Like so many different depictions of this horrible person.
It's because it was so much worse than Hollywood could imagine. So they're like, we're going to take this as art in its real form. So
give it to us, sister.
All right,
this
the real story of Ed Gein. So
this is Murder Monday with our friend Kelly from the ODFM podcast. Be sure to find it and subscribe and follow and hit the automatic download, because this is what she does. She does murders all the time. She deep dives it. And so this was per my request. I was like, you got to do the Ed Gein one. So
which I've been avoiding because I was afraid I'd have nightmares, because it is just seeing photos of it or what gets me the most.
And sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
Again, if you're watching the actual video and not just listening, you will, I put all the pictures up, and so sometimes it can get a little gruesome, but some people actually just like to visually watch the episodes to see the people that we're talking about. And so you can go and find that. Just search for Sadie Has No Friends. And Kelly, finally, now take it away. I'm sorry.
And then Sadie will ruin your nights and you will never sleep after you see the photos of Ed Gein's house. Okay, so buckle up. We're going in the heart of rural, unassuming small town Wisconsin in the early 1900s. Cold, up north, farms, perfect for murders. So before we dive into Ed Gein's nasty ass crimes, well, I feel like it's important to know the man behind them.
Okay.
To say that Ed Gein had a difficult upbringing is like saying Puff Daddy just had a run of the mill kink.
Ooh, really solid way of putting it.
I felt like it needed to be related to today. So yeah, he had a bad fucking upbringing. So Ed was born on August 27th of 1906 in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He was the second son of George and Augusta Gein. And if you think your family has some dysfunction, this will make you feel like you grew up with the Cleavers now, Sadie. So you're fine. See,
all right.
If you don't know who Beaver Cleaver is, you're too young. And I really hated that show. So Augusta, Ed's mother, she was an absolute tyrant. She's deeply religious, which I feel like
that's what I was going to ask was this a religious thing? It's a very religious time. And she was, she was one of these extreme zealots, but hers was to the point where she believed that all women, except herself, of course, were instruments of the devil, sent to tempt men into sin. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of exes out there. Am I right, ladies? I'm just kidding.
It's all the
I'm
women
not.
except yourself, but no, really.
Yeah.
So naturally, Augusta spent most of her time telling her boys that sex, women, and pretty much the entire world outside of their little farmhouse was evil. Also, you've got to show pictures of Augusta because she has these freaky ass eyes that are haunting. She freaks me out more than Ed. I mean,
Augusta's the mom to Ed Gein. Oh,
she's scary. And she is probably the inspiration for a lot of these horror films herself, like being the mom of Norman
yeah.
Bates.
I mean, if not only Texas Chainsaw Massacre is after Ed Gein, and also Psycho, that means the dude has some mom issues.
He had such big mommy issues. So George, Ed's dad, he's an alcoholic who could barely hold down a job. He always left Augusta in charge because I think he was scared to shit of her. You know,
she was so she would stand up to the.
Oh, I think he was scared to shit of her, scared to hell about her. She was very overbearing and she took full advantage of it. So although, like I said, he doesn't seem the type to stand up or try to control his wife, he was the type who'd rather just have things done for him. And she loved to do that. Sounds awful.
She liked to be in control and he was submissive. Okay.
Right, exactly. So because of Augusta's intense religious beliefs, Ed and his brother Henry were isolated from society, forbidden from making any friends, and spent most of their time working on their family farm. So that's not like you're getting any socialization. Yeah. So Augusta would read Bible verses to her sons every day, focusing heavily on passages about divine retribution and the horrors of sexual immorality.
Ooh, the horrors or the horrors?
Probably both.
I was going to say they would both actually apply. But...
I mean, yeah, horrors, but horrors indeed.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But why she focused with her little boys so badly on sex, it just is kind of off to me.
And it also makes me sad for Mr. Ed Gein's dad because,
totally.
he's not getting what he needs. It doesn't matter how long you're married. You still got to keep shit spicy. And it sounds like this woman is not doing that. And she's being a bitch about it.
I think she thinks she was like Mother Mary who conceived without any spiciness.
She was probably one of those old fashioned women who thought that you just had sex to have a baby.
Procreate.
And other than that, it was like disgusting.
Yeah, that's her. That is Augusta.
So Augusta needed to just like chill a little bit.
Augusta needed drugs or something. That's why George had alcohol, because he is like, I cannot handle life with Augusta. So Ed and his brother Henry, they actually become relatively well known in their small rural community of Plainfield, Wisconsin. They're regarded as hard workers despite their isolation and strange family life, because they would actually do odd jobs and labor related work in the community, which they did have a good reputation for working hard and being reliable, if not weird, because they really didn't know how to socialize or talk to others.
But I mean, there are a lot of people that I think there are people that everyone has met in their life where they went to school with somebody who was just completely not, taught how to deal with those kind of social cues. And sometimes it's stuff like autism, but sometimes it's just they're not raised around other people, so they don't get it.
And they're being told that everybody's the devil and to be afraid of them. So,
and all women are whores, which I've told my son since day one. And I'm a little worried he's going to become a killer.
Oh my God. He's going to emulate you in all his futures. Yes. He's going to try to make a bodysuit of you. Okay. So Henry, the older of the two brothers, he seems more socially adjusted and independent compared to Ed. He worked more outside of the home once he got older, and he was known as a steady, reliable guy, although he's not really outgoing. But interestingly, he was more critical of their domineering mother and was concerned with what he viewed as Ed's unhealthy attachment to their mother.
So, sorry, I probably missed it. Is this the older brother?
This is the older brother, Henry. Okay. Yeah. So he kind of spoke up like, Ed, it's a little weird. You're so much on the tit still, break away a little bit.
Unlatch.
This is getting a little unhealthy. But Ed, on the other hand, he's known to be very socially awkward and withdrawn. And while he did work around the area, taking on the odd jobs like Henry, his demeanor set him far apart. He's often described as shy, introverted, and a bit odd. but they would put it
Okay.
nicely by the locals. But he's also seen as dependable, and he would always make it to work and help people out.
And
But he
sometimes
didn't-
that's all you need. You know, if you have
Yeah,
someone
for sure.
reliable and they're just a little bit weird, as long as they show up.
you show up, you get the work done.
We've
Sure,
all
we'll pay you.
also, I think, worked with those people too.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Reliable. Just don't want to try to engage him in conversation.
Yeah,
So,
that's okay.
yeah. And that's him. He didn't engage in conversation, and many people just viewed him as a harmless loner. He just keeps to himself. He's fine. So Ed's life took a turn for the worst in 1940 when his father George died. So now Ed and his older brother Henry are left to care for their mother. And as we know, Henry's not so enamored with Augusta, and he kind of pushed back against her extreme beliefs. It was like, chill, mom. You know, not everybody's a
I'm gonna grow
whore.
me some titty.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that.
That
Is
exactly
so
what he
rude.
said. No.
That's a crude and rude thing. I apologize, but yeah, maybe he was just like, no,
He's
you're
like, "This
crazy.
this is extreme. Come on, mom." But I don't think he enjoyed being at her beck and call. Unlike Ed. Ed loved it. He loved being a servant to his mother. I know. So
Perfect son. I didn't think
Yeah,
they existed.
they
Ed's actually
did.
sounding pretty baller as a kid, but go ahead.
So he actually saw his mother as a true angel on earth. Ed thought she had been brought down to teach the true godly way of life, and she was the only good woman on earth. And he believed all his mother's rants that all other women are sirens sent from the devil to tempt good men into poor decisions.
Yeah, but it's crazy how the older one, I mean, raised by the same parents, but the older one had such a different view of like, I'm getting out of this place because you are crazy.
Right. So I don't know if maybe he wasn't manipulated from the beginning like Ed, or maybe he just
He was
had
stronger.
more sense. Yeah, had more common sense. I don't know. But in 1944, so the boys are a little older, you know, they're probably in their 20s at this point. A fire breaks out on the Geen property, and Ed and Henry had been burning marsh vegetation, which is a common practice. They do it around here too, except we don't have marsh, and I don't know how marsh can burn because it's wet, but
They found a way.
found a way, and it got out of control. Later that night, Ed had gone to authorities and said, you know, I can't find Henry. We started this fire. He's just gone. They do a search, and Henry is found dead, face down in the dirt. So the official cause of death is said to be asphyxiation from smoke. But investigators on the scene are like, weird. He's got some weird bruising on his head, like he'd been beaten on his head. Is that
Yeah, but it's not like they had CSI Miami back in 19 wherever,
44,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, they were just like, damn, he's got some bruises, but case closed. It's weird. So was this, I'm jumping to a conclusion here. Was this Ed's first murder, his brother?
It is believed that that is his first brother, and that he killed him for not being true to their mother.
God, the perfect kid. I mean, the more I hear about him, the more I'm like,
You're
oh
like,
my
"Shit."
God. Yeah,
No,
but
mine
go
are not.
ahead. Go ahead.
So despite them noticing these bruises and stuff, no charges are filed. Death is ruled an accident. Ed, go take care of your mama. Okay, so it's as if the universe is clearing the way for Augusta to be Ed's only source of smothering affection. For him, that's great. He thinks it's wonderful. She thinks it's wonderful. Now Augusta doesn't have to put up with a son who disrespects and disagrees with her worldview. She just has Ed. So it's wonderful.
Perfect child. Yeah.
Perfect. So in 1945, Augusta suffers a series of strokes and dies, leaving Ed completely and utterly alone. His idol, his one connection to the world, and the one person he basically worships as a saint on earth is gone.
It's gone. And he killed his brother. So
Now I have nobody.
Totally dumb move, Ed.
Idiot. So things start to get really dark for him.
Because he's alone now.
Yeah.
He's alone in this farmhouse.
Yep.
And he misses his mom.
He thought his mom literally was sent from God. So he begins to spiral he's got no guidance and no one more accurately to control him. So he retreats into a world of his own creation. He boards up most of the house, except leaving Augusta's part of the house perfect and pristine and untouched. like a shrine. The rest of the house turns into a squalid mess. It's horrible. Picture the worst episode of Hoarders, but with way creepier decor. So Ed
So it's not just like saving
No.
magazines. He's saving like,
Yeah.
dead animals and stuff.
So much worse. It's so gross.
Again,
So-
watch the video episode for all these pictures.
So Ed starts reading books on anatomy and Nazi experiments, as one does when you're so lonely living in a farmhouse. He became obsessed with death and the decaying bodies, basically. So he starts to visit local graveyards. Ed confessed to making as many as 40 trips to local cemeteries under the cover of night. Sometimes he said he would just dig up freshly buried bodies to examine them. He just wanted to look at those. Other times he would take the bodies home. And he was particularly interested in women who somewhat resembled his mother. So he would actually go through the papers and like, oh, this obituary. Yeah, that woman's in her late 60s, early 70s. She still looks a lot like my mom. I should probably dig her up.
Holy crap. And then he'd take the body. Now, do we know what happened to mom's body? Did he?
No, I think he left her buried, which is shocking.
Okay. So he didn't like keep her, because we've had one episode where a dude kept this girl for years.
That was so gross.
So he didn't pull that. He just
I think he wanted to make her over again. So he's this unassuming man bringing corpses home, and who knows what he actually did with them. Like, some are thinking, was it sexual or was he just
but does anyone suspect him? Because I feel like if you're living in a small town, and does anyone know he's doing this, or is it he's so secretive that no one even knows?
Yeah, nobody even starts to think. I don't think they even realize graves are being robbed at the beginning, because he would just cover them back up, put the coffins back and cover them back up.
That's nice of him. Good dude.
So I don't think they knew for a long time. So in 1957, this is like 10 years later, police go to Ed's farmhouse to investigate the disappearance of a local hardware store owner named Bernice Warden. So I'm not sure why they thought to go there, but I think he was the last one seen at her tavern at the time. They were like, okay, we'll go see if he knows anything. So when they go to his house, what they find was something no one had come across in the modern world. Like, this was not something that happened. Inside the house, they discovered Bernice Warden's body, but it was decapitated. She was hanging upside down like a deer carcass on hooks.
Don't you do that to drain everything out of the body?
Yeah, like for trophies and stuff.
Yeah, or like pigs. I've gone to pig roasts where people do that.
What? Yeah, she had been shot and mutilated, but that was just the beginning. So they see this body and they're like, okay, yeah, Ed, we're going to have to check this. The house is this horror show. They found bowls made from human skulls, a lampshade. That one really disturbs me. A lampshade made of human skin and faces on your lampshade, chairs upholstered with human flesh.
So how much flesh was he stealing?
So much.
So he was going that many times, and every time he was taking pieces. Oh, pieces. Guys. Oh, and this is rough.
Literally, the pictures were so, I was pretty nauseous while doing this. And I study so many of these, but there aren't a lot of these type of crime scene photos available for modern day ones. But back then there were. So they're rough. But one of the most shocking discoveries was a suit made entirely of women's skin.
What does that sound like? That is
it's
Silence
Buffalo
of the
Bill.
Lambs.
Yeah.
That's Silence.
He had been constructing a woman's suit, something he later confessed he wanted to wear so he could, in his words, become his mother.
Oh, it's a fine line in parenting, Kelly. I'll tell you that much. You try your hardest. You really do. You really try.
Yeah. So while at this disgusting house, police are able to solve a missing persons case of another woman from several years earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In 1954, Mary Hogan, she was a 57-year-old owner of a tavern in Pine Grove, Wisconsin. That's just a ways down from Plainfield where he lived. She had disappeared. So Mary was this tough bird, not unlike Augusta, but she had grown up in the big city of Chicago before moving to the quiet town of Pine Grove, and she was brash and outspoken. And like myself, she made locals uncomfortable with inappropriate jokes.
Anyone listening, if you live in Colorado, please go to Wellington, because Kelly has a store. It's called Thistle, and it is full of stuff. that
So-
offends people, and I love this store.
Oh, did I tell you my latest offense I did as a side note on this?
No, what?
I might have. It was like a group of women came in and they had been drinking. So I thought, oh, group of drinking women.
Like
this
you get
is
a
perfect.
vibe.
And I'm like, don't miss the dong corner right over here, which I have a corner full of penis things. And they all look at each other and then start reciting scriptures. I am not joking. I read that fucking room wrong. Normally I can read it well. Those ladies did not want the dong, but I secretly think they do. And they're going to come back.
Come
one
on.
by
Of course
one.
they want the dong. Of course
They're
they
gonna
want
come
the
back
dong.
on their own. Yeah, they're going to come back.
Yeah,
on their
they're
own and
probably
be like,
looking at each other like,
Mhm.
ew, so gross. And then one by one, they're going to show up and be real and
"Hey,
see
Mike,
what
I
you
really
got. For,
wanted that
which
sexy man puzzle.
it's been a while. I have yet to see the dong corner. I will be in this week.
All right. Anyway,
But
so
back
yeah,
to Ed.
yeah. So I'm kind of like this Mary Hogan, who was very booming and loud, and her personality put off a lot of folks in this conservative Midwestern town. But it didn't stop people from going to her tavern for drinks because, I mean, drinks, you know.
Yeah, booze, right?
Yeah. So on December 8th of 1954, Mary had served several bar patrons as per usual. However, later that evening, when more patrons came by to throw back some drinks, they found the place empty except for blood. So
It's a horrible sign, actually.
Mary's gone and there's just blood. So police investigate. They find a spent bullet cartridge amongst the blood, but no sign of Mary. I mean, it's the 50s by now. They don't have forensics really. So, but they do know from the amount of blood found that something violent had happened, and without any
It
other
wasn't like an
clues-
accidental, like
Right. It
she
wasn't like I
cut
cut my
herself
finger.
and bled out. It was
Right.
like
It's like
it was
pools.
bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're like, she's probably not alive, but they had no other clues. So the case had gone cold. Ed would sometimes, I think it was almost like he was proud of these things, because he would sometimes make an odd joke to others. He would say things like, quote, Mary wasn't missing. She's up at the farm. So people are
Oh.
like, ha, Ed, you have the worst sense of humor I've ever heard.
Yeah, but why didn't anybody listen to him and say,
know.
"Damn, maybe we should listen to Ed. He's pretty much
Yeah.
saying where this
He's
lady
like,
is at now."
she's at my house.
And everyone's like, "Shut up, you,
Shut up, Ed.
you town weirdo." Okay, so how did he get caught, Kelly?
Totally. Well, when they go to search Ed's place for Bernice, the evidence they found of Mary was disturbing, to say the least. So Keen had kept her face, like her
Oh.
face. He had skinned and preserved her amid a collection of human remains, and her skull was also recovered in his things. And I'm wondering, he had all these bowls made out of skulls. I'm not sure if that was one of hers.
There were bowls made
There
out
were
of skulls.
Bowls. There's
Were they
even
decorative or were they like cereal
Oh no,
bowl?
they were used. They were being
He was
used.
eating out of them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, waste not, want not.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
He had even made gloves out of human skin. And the creepiest part of it is they look like leather gloves you'd buy today. It's very disturbing.
Ooh. Wow, but in a way, like, I mean, I don't want to give Ed Gein any
Mhm.
type
Props,
of come up,
right.
like props
Right.
in any way, but
Yeah.
it sounds like the dude was pretty good with sewing and
he was crafty. He was a crafty fella.
yeah, I don't know a lot of guys who can build an
No.
entire suit, much less out of skin.
Okay, so he's arrested in 1957 for the murder
Thank
of
goodness.
Bernice Warden. Yeah, thank God. So word of the discovery, it gets spread like wildfire, and there becomes this huge media frenzy because there's never been anything like this before that people have seen.
Yeah, that's
in the
like
modern
next level
world.
twisted.
It is. So back in the 1950s, crime scene protocol was a lot looser than it is today. And the rules for preserving evidence were like non-existent, especially in a small town. And the sheer spectacle of his crime scene, it was a media free for all. So apparently in the hours and days following his arrest, journalists, curious onlookers, and even like neighbors were allowed to walk through the home, evidence
Just to see
firsthand.
where it all happened.
So in
Mm.
some cases, reporters were even touching the objects inside the house. Shit today that you'd be like, don't touch anything. The lax approach to the crime scene control was typical at that time, especially in these rural areas. And in this type of sensational case, they're just like, yeah, everybody come on in, check this out. This is crazy.
Yeah, you got to see this, everybody. They're probably calling each other on the phone, the nosy neighbors, and
were.
saying, we're going to go over there.
Yeah.
I would be one of those people.
I would too.
I
And yeah.
would. That's disgusting, but I'd totally go.
I'd totally go. So those who entered were like universally horrified by what they found. There were like a huge volume of body parts where they had been fashioned into the everyday items like lamps and chairs, and that, like we talked about, his creativity behind his trophies. It was like a scene from a horror movie, and it really is. The worst items he made, in my opinion, this is what made me so nauseous, was a belt made of severed nipples, and there's a photo of it.
I'll put a photo up. I mean, no one probably wants to see it, but here it is.
Nasty.
Just because this is where the truth comes out. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat anything. This is truly what happened. I can't believe the nipple belt's what got you. For me, it was the bowls the dude was eating out of, made of people bowls.
Everything's nasty. And the face lamps were really gross too. But
still, you're not eating out of the face lamp.
No, that's true. But there's also like a full female torso that was skinned from shoulders to waist, and 9 vulva he kept in his shoebox. So the lampshade made of a human face, though, that is so disturbing. So
once the cops got there, they were like, well, God, Ed's been killing everyone in town.
They thought so.
And he's like, I know, I've been telling you, and no one listened to me.
I told everyone. The reporters, they described the place as filthy, disorganized, and overwhelmingly eerie.
Sure.
So it was littered with human remains, but it also showed signs of extreme squalor. So he was using the things he got. He had piles of trash, decayed food rotting in corners, with all this nasty shit around. And journalists said the experience was surreal, which I could imagine. They're saying the sight of the human skulls and lampshades made from skin haunted them long after they left the house. And many were like, this quiet, odd man they had always seen walking through town had been living in this horror house for years while interacting normally with everybody.
Never know. You never know.
You never
even
know.
Even though he did tell everybody,
Hey
guys, I'm doing this, and you never know if
Mary's
you don't listen.
At the farm immediately. So the press pushes out the story all over the nation, fighting for the most lurid headlines, to grab the most readers, and it goes international. The press reporting on Geen also fueled rumors and urban legends about the case. So some were more lurid, like that he practiced cannibalism, which was exaggerated or completely made up, but they spread quickly due to the frenzy of the media.
Yeah.
And as a result, his crimes became even more monstrous in the public imagination. He really only killed 2 people, but still desecrating all the graves and bringing all the dead bodies back.
What's so crazy about it to me is the fact that he's not considered a serial killer. There's so many, like we said earlier, there's so many movies that are based on the weird stuff this guy did, but he wouldn't be considered a serial killer,
right?
Which is really weird.
I think it was just the sheer grotesqueness of it. A lot of serial killers shoot people and leave them, which that's bad, but to skin
and then wear them. No, I don't want to be worn when I'm dead. I want to be left alone.
It's like those people that preserve their loved ones' tattoos. Have you seen that?
No.
It's the
but
same
have
type
you
of thing.
Have you seen in other countries? And I don't even know if this is real, but there are videos I've seen. I will post the video, so trigger warning. But in other countries for like funerals, they'll just prop the person up, the dead person, and they try to make it look like they're not
alive,
dead, and people can walk through and they're like, Steve's on the couch just having a beer, and obviously he's dead. It's like a weekend at Bernie's. And people can walk by and they pay their respects to, their family member, but they present them as they are alive. It is so weird.
It's really bizarre. I
kind of want everybody to do it to me when I
know.
die.
That'd be kind of interesting. And we can poke you and stuff and be like,
especially when Ryan starts dating. I want to really be there for these things. Prop my ass up at the dinner table.
The corner.
That's my final request.
I'll make
pretty
sure
messed
done.
up. That's a messed up story, Kelly.
It is. Well, and the crime scene had been compromised by so many outsiders that police finally shut down access to his house, his farmhouse, but not before many of the journalists had already seen and photographed the interior. And that is why we have all the photos available on this particular case. Otherwise, probably wouldn't be seeing what, you hear about it, but seeing is different.
Totally different.
You only see it if you're a detective or a juror.
So again, if you downloaded this on Spotify, Apple, just in podcast form, I don't know. I think we've made it sound pretty enticing.
You might have to watch it on YouTube
to get that full experience.
Yeah.
You got to do
Subscribe
it.
to Sadie's YouTube. Okay. So shortly after his arrest, Ed was diagnosed with schizophrenia, shocker, and declared legally insane. So he was committed to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Waupun, Wisconsin. So this facility housed individuals deemed too mentally ill to be tried or required psychiatric care instead of conventional imprisonment. Probably
so
good.
They're just kind of waiting for him to die.
Yeah. But at the institution, Ed becomes a model patient. Despite his grotesque crimes, the staff is like, he is cooperative. He's quiet. He's well behaved. He wasn't violent at all.
He's just, listen, he's a mama's boy, but too far.
He's a mama's boy. Yeah.
Too far. So I'm sure he's very polite.
Very polite, soft-spoken. And during his time, he was far removed from the twisted reality of his former life. Like, he didn't talk about it much. The structure seemed to be great for him. He loved it. And he spent his day doing simple tasks, not sewing that I heard, but doing chores, cleaning. He was useful and
A sewing
occupied.
joke would be in poor taste. He was the head of the quilting club, and we don't say that. That would be disgusting.
That would be gross. But he actually gained weight there. He started to look good, like instead of homeless, which he kind of always looked before.
So do you think this was just a case of like a really messed up, really lonely person? Because you're saying that he went to this institution and he started thriving probably.
He did great.
People were nice to him.
People were nice and he wasn't lonely.
He wasn't alone.
It's so sad in that way. But he spent his days doing simple tasks and chores. Throughout the days there, he went through lots of evaluations. Of course, that paranoid schizophrenia and psychosis remained consistent. He still had delusional thinking, particularly when it came to Augusta. When he would talk about his mom, he still was fixated on her purity and dominance over him. And one of the key aspects of his condition was his disconnect from reality. He didn't fully grasp the severity of what he'd done. Like, he didn't see it as a bad thing, especially the grave robbing. These were things to him that people had thrown away and he could use.
What are you going to do with it? Yeah.
He's like, these are objects I can make. I can craft things from human remains. So he did it as an effort to preserve some connection to his mother, to fill his warped desires to become her, because he saw her as this godly
perfection.
Figure.
She's perfect.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that she never, he didn't take her body. You think that would have been the ultimate prize for him to be able to hang on to that and then create his dream mom suit out of her actual
I wonder
mom.
why he didn't. Yeah. Eventually, he does get declared competent enough to stand trial, like after 11 years at the state hospital. So he's tried for the murder of Bernice, but the court still is like, this dude's too mentally insane.
Too
he
far gone.
Yeah. So he remained in the institution for the rest of his life, and he was aware that he was a famous figure by this point, but it's not like a lot of the serial killers where they love talking about it. He never bragged about his crimes or reveled in them. And at the same time, he didn't have any remorse, but he didn't want to talk about it. So it was totally different in that way. You know, it wasn't like the attention seeking. He just felt it was personal, which is really weird.
So it wasn't your typical serial killer, but he's not a serial killer.
He's
so
not.
He doesn't fit in that.
True.
He's his
Bizarre.
own. He was in his own category because he died.
He did. He died at the age of 77 from cancer. So he is probably the most immortalized figure out there for the horror culture. And so, and in an eerie twist of fate, after his death, he was buried next to his mother, Augusta, in the Plainfield Cemetery, the same cemetery he had desecrated by robbing graves decades earlier. That was the same one.
How did they not say you're not allowed to be buried here? Like, isn't it also an honor thing?
Totally. But
Like,
over the years, his tombstone became a tourist attraction, and it was always vandalized. His gravestone was and stuff. So finally, in 2000, it was stolen entirely.
his gravestone.
His gravestone, and it was later recovered, but they put it in storage and left his grave unmarked, so people leave it alone.
You would have to.
Yeah.
People would be making a mess out of
Gross.
Kelly.
I
Just one
know.
hell of I love
I know.
the Ed Gein story stuff is, and if you if you're listening and this is fascinating to you, do like a deep dive on it because it's a
crazy.
trip. The whole story is a trip. There's a lot of
It's
books written about it.
Yeah.
Like Kelly was saying, there are movies that are about it. So if you're
Mhm.
unfamiliar, because this is like a ripple effect. A lot of people say a lot of other horror characters are loosely somewhat based on him. So he
Yeah.
touches a lot when it comes to that stuff.
Just, who knew? He didn't know he'd be so
He
inspirational.
didn't know. He had
No.
no idea.
Oh, and one other thing, when people would ask him in jail and stuff when he was being interrogated about whether he was sexually attracted to the dead bodies,
Yeah.
he said no, he would never sexually touch them because they smelled too bad. Yeah, he kept all these body parts all over it, and he used them as furniture.
Yeah, but also, don't you think that comes with his mom's stuff?
Probably.
Like,
That would be
they're
so
like
sacrilegious.
disgusting.
Yeah,
And
that's
so women are gross and they smell, and now they're
Yeah.
really smelly because they're rotting. But like he's probably he probably had zero sex because people that
Ever.
are raised in that strange
I'm sure he was
way,
probably
they have
virgin forever.
weird sex hangups. And so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think that was probably his deal.
I think you're right. Yeah. He got so warped. Thanks, frickin' Augusta, for warping this man into one of the
bitch.
worst killers ever. Not even killers, worst crafters.
Well, you can't go after the man's crafting. If you're into the whole murder thing, you got to follow Kelly's podcast. It's ODFM and it's on all platforms. So you can go find it and you can just like thumb through. Sometimes I just
there's
thumb
so many.
through
Yeah.
what murder sounds.
What
That's
sounds
so
delightful
messed up.
today? What
But what
murder do I wanna
sounds
dive into today? Yeah.
while I mop the floor. So definitely subscribe to that. Thank you, Kelly. And we will see you
Thank
next
you.
Monday for Murder
Yes.
Monday.
I'll be back.
Okay. Okay, guys, before I head out for the day, I want to say thank you again for listening to today's episode of Sadie Has No Friends. Be sure to click that automatic download. And if it's not popping up in the morning or whenever you set it to, see, this is already sounding confusing. If you wake up and it's not waiting for you on your phone, just right there saying, hey, new episode, then there's an issue, damn it. You got to go in there. You got to manually fix it. Now, why would you do that? Because that's how you listen to the show. And if you download it, it's just as easy as pushing play. And then I get to show off the downloads and it feels pretty dang good. So let's all work together, huh? Also, before I leave, I have to thank Christian Salon and Spa. I went and I got my hair did. Finally, it was getting like out of control long. And so I went to Chris, the owner, and I said, Chris, it's time. She never has pressured me. Although now that I see my hair and what she's done, I wish she would have pressured me earlier to get in there and get my hair did because it feels so soft. It looks incredibly healthy, which it did not before. And I got a brand new warm color for the fall. It's like a cola color, is what, like a Coca-Cola. I love it. It brings warmth to my wardrobe of sweatpants and sports bras, and you'll love what you get done there too. It's Christiana Salon Spa, christiansalonspa.com. And be sure, if you go in there or you call to make an appointment, that you heard about it on the podcast, you're going to get an additional 10% off. Woo!